Never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine that I would be where I am today. That didn't even exist, man. My name is 빅슬립스의, man. I'm an artist from Los Angeles, tattoo artist, fine artist, calligraphy guy, a little bit of everything. I grew up in Pico Union, man, so early on I was exposed to the gang stuff, the writing. Beautiful neighborhood, man. Raised by my mother. Pops wasn't around, my two brothers. As a young kid, I think I was drawn to the writing and to the letter forms, you know, which were used by the local gangs to mark the territory and stuff. And I think I always saw it, even though it was guys marking up gang stuff or whatever, I always saw it as an art form, you know? I was mimicking it since I was young, man. Second, third grade, trying to copy it or what have you, you know? Maybe about the mid-'80s or like 86 or something, I just kind of drifted off into the gang life. And then it was a very interesting journey, man. I mean, I've always loved art. I was always drawing as a kid or what have you. The fact that I loved lettering and all that as a young kid or whatever, and it just kind of stuck with me. I entered the gang and I was doing all these block letters and all this gang writing and started going to juvenile hall, man. Shot on multiple occasions. But before you know it, I was engulfed in the juvenile system and on probation and then back incarcerated. And one of those things where you kind of don't even know what you're getting into as a young kid. You know, my mother raised us with good morals, with respect. Beautiful woman, man. And she taught us all right from wrong or whatever. At the point when I realized that I was like 19 or something, I had done like 3 years in the California Youth Authority, got out thinking I was going to change my life around. And in my brain, I'm trying to escape that. I'm like, how can I get out of this, man, you know? And it was a long struggle, man. When I finally realized that I wanted to get out of it, it's not as easy, you know what I mean? But along the ways, I was drawing in prison, man, perfecting my style. I still had that hope, you know? I was trading tattoos in prison for a cup of noodles and drawing for commissary, what have you know what I mean? And I think I never seen past any of that because that's all I knew, you know? Financially, we could never move out of that neighborhood, so it was tough, you know? In that time, those 10 years that I was out, I was able to do artwork for a group of rappers that grew up in Pico Union, long life childhood friends of mine, the Psycho Realm, Sick Jack and Duke, which were the first ones to ever offer me money for artwork. They're like, hey man, get off the streets, man. You know your art is dope, do some for us. And I'm like, whatever, you know, I'm kind of still trying to figure it out. I didn't know the potential that I had in my hand. It was a struggle, man, I'm not gonna lie. And this is probably the first time I share that. You know, I got into drugs, doing drugs and trying to survive in that neighborhood. Moms got sick, man, passed away from cancer. And I think at that point, man, it really felt like all that life of suffering and backing me up that I never did nothing with my art or nothing. That one really, really kind of cut deep, man. And I felt at that point that I needed to do something. I felt like not to let that go in vain, you know, all the suffering I put her through, man. That light bulb went off at that time, but unfortunately, I was like financially fucked up. Drawing every day, painting every day, didn't really know what to do with it, kind of on and off on drugs. And as I'm trying to escape that, man, I end up getting caught up again with guns and go back. But this time, I'm fighting the case, man, and this is kind of interesting, man. Me and my wife had dated back in the days, or what have you, like maybe 98 or 99, and we had stopped talking for years. As I'm fighting my case, man, she comes back into my life. One day she just popped up over there, and I'm like rock bottom, man, like, you know, struggling to get by, and it almost felt like as if we'd never stopped talking, you know? We started talking, I told her what was going on, and I don't know, man, this new hope came over me, and I started going to court. I'm facing like, I'm a 3-striker at that time. I'm facing a good amount of time, but I was out on bail, and to make a long story short, I ended up fighting the case and getting 1 year instead of 15 or whatever, you know? My mindset, I said, okay, this is my chance, man. This 1 year, I'm gonna take it and turn my whole way of thinking around and everything, you know? And I actually fought the case, got a date to turn myself in. Nobody believed I was gonna walk in there and surrender myself. And they're like, you're gonna run, right? I said, no, I'm happy to go in there. I can quit the roller coaster of using drugs and like use it as a way to just kind of escape that, you know? I go in there, man, and I'll put this in God's hands. I think the timing was right, and it was just my time to turn my life around. And I was in there drawing every day, man, every day. I remember how popular I was in jail for doing these type of letters and how good everyone wanted me to write letters and envelopes for their wives and stuff. And in my head, I'm thinking, if I can apply this to the real world for real money, to real people that are company owners or whatever, I can be okay. Because all these people are chasing me down for art, right? They're paying me a cup of noodles or whatever the they pay. But I said, if I can flip this mentality of trading art in this system thing and get out there and really go to school and try to do something with it, maybe I can make a career of this, you know? 2008, I come home and with the new mentality, and my wife backs me to the fullest, man. I moved out of Pico Union and moved in with her in Inglewood, and I think this is where I was able to build. I mean, it hasn't been that long where I was able to really build what I have right now, you know? She had saved up like $300, man, to get me going. That's all she had. With that $300, we bought a tattoo machine and all this other shit, and I'm like, man, I gotta put this to use. I started tattooing at a shop in Inglewood, and I mean, I had been tattooing for years in the streets or shops or whatever, but this time I was taking it serious. I wanted to put food on the table. You know, my girl looked out for me when I was gone, and I said, man, I gotta step it up, you know. And it's crazy how this thing built, man. And I had all these letter forms, man, and I'm gonna step it into the world of this lettering. You know what I feel like was the magic ticket for things that really changed for me. And it's crazy because this lettering, it could be called calligraphy, it could be called graffiti or hand styles or Chicano placas, whatever, you know. To me, these letter forms that I practiced were letters that were learned growing up in Pico Union, looking at all the markings on the walls, you know. I'm just keeping it real. And these letters date back to like the 20s or 30s when the Pachucos were writing their names and the gangs were marking territories. It's unlike New York graffiti, you know. And it's crazy because I always practiced them and was fascinated by them, but I noticed in my tattoo career that people were really being fascinated with them. You know, I went to Detroit, I traveled, and people were blown away. They had never seen that. You know, you only saw this if you grew up in LA. My career started kind of taking off, you know, and at some point we're walking around a convention and my girl always with that microscope trying to, you know, figure out a new way for us to push forward, man. And she's the one that came up with the idea for me to put my first lettering book together. 2010, man, she went through all the letters I had sent her and we cut out all these things and I put my first lettering manuscript together. We had no help, no idea how to do it, whatever. We didn't even know we were gonna sell any, and we did it, man, and we never looked back, bro. Like that was one of the best things we ever did, man. That book went bananas, man, you know. As I'm doing the book, I'm like, oh, the lady that was helping us, Wendy Belzell, like, oh, you gotta come up with a name and you need a website to sell it. I said, I don't even know it's gonna sell. And she's like, trust me, she sells books. That's what she's like, trust me, it's gonna sell. I'm gonna buy the first whole print run you do is mine. I'm buying it already up front, you know. So I was like, wow, okay. So I asked my brother, help me come up with a name, and he's like, Letters to Live By, and because that's what you do and that's how you know, it was like, it just made sense. I tattooed to get by in prison doing letters and wrote letters, and everything I've done, it has been around that, you know. I learned those letters kind of in a negative way to mark the territory or just show off negative, like gang riot, and how they kind of played a part of me coming full circle, man. This is a good friend of mine. We were talking about history and stuff, and I gave him, he's like, man, paint me something that tells a story about you. And I'm gonna just read it off and we'll move on to everything else. It's kind of a positive and negative. One row is positive, one row is negative. So it says Streets of Los Angeles, Pico Union, Rifamos. Obviously that's kind of a little aggressive, but kind of depicting where I grew up or whatever. But then it says worldwide, por vida. And then this row says murder. Obviously, like I said, I had been incarcerated for a case or whatever. And then it says county, CYA is California Youth Authority. So that's a negative row, you know. But then here I'm outdoing it with an accomplishment. It says the Getty, and then Natural History Museum, LA. And some countries I've had the honor of visiting: Rome, Tokyo, Brazil, the UK, London, New York, whatever, Milan. You kind of get the idea. And then on the bottom it says State Prison, Belgium. It was just more me kind of telling this crazy story in my life, you know. How at one point I was in and out of institutions or whatever, and now I'm kind of in and out, going through the museum world and all that. And I feel like I was able to redeem myself using that letter form, you know, as a vehicle, man.
This one was catching my eye the entire
This one's one of the best ones I've ever put together. It's a collaboration by me and my homeboy Deffer. It's called Liquid Swords, man. Deffer's one of the top dogs in the fine art world right now, man. His style is really distinct, man. This is a little bit of me, a little bit of him, We're combining styles. We grew up in the same area, kind of like the Rampart district of LA. The same effort and the same energy that I put into the tattoo world and the books and stuff, I went double on that, man. I said, man, this is my chance to really hang paintings in people's homes. I just looked at it from a different angle, you know what I mean? And it kind of triggered something in me that made me feel like, kind of like redemption or something, man. I felt like something that I used in a bad way, I'm able to use now to turn my life around and in a good way, because somewhere along those lines, I did a workshop with some kids, doing letters. I mean, kids love art, man, but doing their names and all that. And I'm like, wow, I'm able to use this lettering as a tool to go the right direction, you know? And I think maybe Instagram and the books that I put out and stuff like that played a huge role in it being accepted in the fine art world. Not just me, but Defra and a bunch of us. We did something for David Brofman from the Getty Research Institute. It's in the Getty now in their archives. It's a one-of-one book, and they presented some artwork to them. And it's funny as it seems, they loved all the artwork. There was a few pages that me and a friend of mine submitted that only had this type of lettering, and it kind of stood out from everything else that was submitted. Everything else was kind of like New York style graffiti or the bubble letters and all the stuff. And Marsha Reed is one of the main top people over at the Getty Research Institute, and she was like, this is all good stuff. To my knowledge, this is what was said, but what is this here? Like, where does this come from? Like, these type of letter forms, they almost look like Arabic or Sanskrit hieroglyphics. And I believe she had seen them driving through LA before, and they could never decipher what it was or kind of where they came from. And there they come, talking to us about it, and we kind of built a friendship on that, kind of giving them a historical, just the history behind that stuff, you know what I mean? My volume 3 book was Neighborhood Offerings that was put together by me and a childhood friend named Jose Reza. He goes by Prime, legend in the graffiti world, you know? Then it was just all kind of letter forms from the neighborhood, hand styles and all these things, and it's in the Getty Research Institute. At some point they inducted it into their archives, man, and we were blown away, man. From there comes another natural history museum, and they're like, hey, Big Sleeps, we want you to come. And I grew up near there, man, so they commissioned me to do a huge wall in there and gave me all the artistic freedom that I wanted. You know what I mean? At that point, man, I'm like so overwhelmed. It's hard to even put that into context, you know what I mean? And do something that's special for him, you know. There's people getting tattooed, either his name or some of his artwork, his flash sheets, his drawings or whatever. We had a shop meeting and all of us were talking about what we could do, and then I thought about the LA day that he loved doing so much, where all these people were lining up and get LA tattoos, and I said, why don't we try to switch it to Norm Day and do it on his birthday and from midnight to midnight. And it just, the idea snowballed amongst all of us, man, into this beautiful like idea of. And then when we started posting it, people from around the world started responding, talking about how can we be involved. So now you're talking about shops from New Zealand, South Africa, China, Japan, New York, everywhere, London, all parts of the world started chiming in. So there's a couple hundred shops already tattooing Norm Day right now. It's really a tribute to him and how much he loved tattooing, man, and how much he loved graffiti and art. I think all of us just uniting here as artists and brothers to him, and co-workers and his employees, and makes it special. You know, there's really no way to put it into words of how big of a person this guy was. This dude was this tall, man, but his heart was the size of this building, man, you know? He was a super famous graffiti guy, man, you know? I think one day I was out there traveling around when he had the shop on Fairfax, and somebody introduced us, man, and I think that same day, bro, I'm like, damn, this is a cool little dude, man, you know, and we started talking that afternoon, and we ended up chilling for a bit. And he's like, "Hey, you want to draw, man? You want to draw with me today?" And it seems weird, right? Like, we ended up linking up that day. And I remember I canceled whatever I had going on and went to the art store. And we actually sat down, me, him, and another good homie of mine, Boog, man. Big guy in the tattoo industry, man. Another legend, man, and beast in that world, man, that raised the bar so high that, you know. So we sat down and we drew up this poster here and we started selling it. It was like a lettering poster, and me and Norm talked for a while and we kind of hit it off cool. And that same day, he's like, "Man, if you ever need a job or want to work here at this shop and, you know, come by or whatever." And I'm like, "You know what, I'm already at a shop." But once I took him up on that offer and started working there, the ideas just, boom. I'm like the Mexican version of his Jewish version, you know. And we started making moves together, man. We started hitting some conventions, doing art shows. We started like a couple local United States shows, and then before you know, we were all over the globe, man, you know.
And I got a chance to go tour with him a couple times, and man, you know, like,
we stood up at the top of Machu Picchu, man, telling stories, bro.
What? Yeah,
brother.
So let me ask you this:
we've been traveling, man.
what do you think about their impact, Norm's impact, Steve's impact on the art of the street? Like, in other words, like graffiti had that whole New York style, the big bubble style, and now it's all about what they were doing, what they're doing now, the letters, the calligraphy.
it ain't even about then and now. I don't think it's you know, it's everybody has their contribution. You know, I grew up with this man right here, so you know, to see where he's at, you know, to know he's in the Getty Museum, like beyond, like you don't even know, you know, we talk about
those
this shit.
words
I mean,
it can't be put into words, bro.
There's no words to describe it. Like, you know, being in Colombia with him, you know, and Norm, you know what I mean, and being out there with them and seeing him, you know, paint this globe and both of them working. There's a feeling that I get, you know what I mean, like that you get that it's, you know, it's not even, it's beyond like, you know, being proud of somebody or there's no words to describe it. You know what I'm saying? Because we know where we came from.
Same thing as when I see you guys on stage, brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
There's something that goes on inside that's like, there's no exact word to describe that emotion, bro. You know, only if you've known where we've come from and.
Where did you guys come from? Explain that
Pico
for the
Union,
people.
brother. We grew up in the streets of Pico Union, man. Norm was fortunate, and we were fortunate to cross paths in this lifetime and travel, and he became part of the family. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And we were fortunate to share his friendship as well, because he taught us a lot, bro, about being genuine and just treating people in a way that's hard to find these days, man.
You're breaking through the mainstream, so to speak. Not that you ever really intended to, but you're breaking through the mainstream, and now he was too, but now he's not here with you, and you're doing it without.
I'm gonna carry that torch, brother. I'm a beast, man, and I'm gonna use that tragedy to push even harder, bro. You know, we had a lot of plans. I don't know if I could ever accomplish all of them, man, because that dude can move, man. You know, he probably was able to do what 10 of us couldn't do together, man. You know, he made a group of busy people look lazy, man. You know, so I think I'm gonna do my best to focus on the important ones that we had lined up, and there's a few moves that I'd never be able to make without having them in my heart or something, you know. I buried a gang of homies, man, growing up, my mother, a bunch of tragedies in my life, but I think when I was living a negative life and running the streets, it felt different. It hurt, but building such a positive career, bro, and traveling and building a friendship, man, we're like two odd dudes, a little Jewish kid that had nothing in common with me, man, growing up, maybe the love for lettering, and I'm like, grew up in the neighborhood and gang banging and all that, but somehow we merged and, you know, we built a friendship, and he taught me a lot about appreciating friendships and learned a lot about having a real friend, not a street homie that has to follow a certain code and you guys agree on shit because that's the rule of the street. We learned how to agree on stuff because we built a friendship based on certain things, but we learned how to disagree, and there was no repercussions. We just said, cool, we don't see eye to eye on this, you know? And building that for all these past years and sharing so much to, like with the tattoo industry and graffiti, and to the point that he became part of my family, bro. He had a gift under my Christmas tree every year, you know what I mean? A place at our table for Thanksgiving, birthdays, everything, bro, you know? It morphed into something different, bro, you know? Like to a brotherhood, so I'm not ashamed to show emotion on that, bro, you know? it's one of those men that it really can't be put into words, man, you know?